begin that. So we are now recording. My name is Peter Wernett. I'm with the Mission Insight team at ACS Technologies that acquired Mission Insight in the fall of 2019. So would each of you want to say a brief introduction, and then I'll move into presenting.
Sure. I'm Sally Watson. I'm General Presbyter for Mission Presbytery, and grateful for your time with us, Peter. Melody, how about you next?
All right. I'm Melody. I'm the office manager at Mission Presbytery, and I'll hand it over to Carol.
And I'm Presbyterian clergy trying to retire, although I'm now in my second week of a summer assignment covering for a pastor who's on sabbatical. And I'm working with the Vital Congregations Initiative along with Al.
And I am Al Krummenacher. I was acquired by Mission Presbytery in 2012. And I am currently the Director of Development at Austin Presbyterian Seminary. And I am one of the facilitators with Carol of Vital Congregations.
And Peter, I would say that Vital Congregations is kind of the presenting issue for this call. We have a number of congregations that are taking part in that initiative from our denomination, and Carol and Al are the two new facilitators that are going to be helping walk churches through doing this. So that's why we're glad you can be with us.
Oh, excellent. Well, my plan was to kind of walk through the different key features. And I'll start with the piece that's available to communicate with local congregational leaders for them to self-register if they're not always self-registered, if they haven't self-registered, and can then begin to use the system. And I can follow up with any technical things with you, Melody, afterward if we want to do that. But so we can kind of get all the different features highlighted, hopefully within the hour. Yes.
Sally or Melody, do Carol and I need to self-register, or are we already registered for this?
I sent you the link about a month ago, and I think y'all registered.
Okay.
I'll have to double check, but I think you
Okay.
already have.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And I think we have the right one. You should now be looking at the Mission Insight webpage. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. If you're not seeing what I'm talking about, please let me know immediately. Also, if you want to mute your audio, sometimes we might get feedback. You can turn that on and off. If you have a question, let me know. I'm going to work at leaving about 10 minutes at the end for comments, questions that you might have that would be germane exactly to what you're doing in the presbytery. Also, I think most of you have been using Zoom, but the video feed you can minimize completely up in the upper right-hand corner, where you can just remove that and have a little black box that you can grab and move around if it's in the way. So this is where people log in. And I'm not going to use that today, but I always like to point that out. People say, well, once I'm registered, where do I log in? It's right there. And then when you log in to the current platform, you're greeted with this user assistant window. And you can see that it will identify the presbytery for the user. When you log in as a regional user of the presbytery, you see the entire presbytery. But for those, when they log in as a user of a local congregation, I want to show you that they will log in to. So if I just pick a congregation, you will see that it will. Well, that didn't work well. Let me go back here. That was a Brazilian congregation I saw. So let me see. Here's Brady Presbyterian Church. So it will take that user directly to their church. So they can begin to work on the mapping platform when they go to the mapping platform directly where the congregation is located. So I'm going to go back and log into the complete presbytery study, which each of you need to have rights to log into the base study. So when you arrive, you're greeted with the user assistant window. This window is designed to hopefully assist a local user to be able to use the system effectively without searching on the mapping platform. You can, of course, remove that and go directly to the map. And you may want to do that if you're working across the presbytery. But the first thing that we recommend that you suggest to people is that when they log in, they go to the people plot and they upload their member file. And the reason is it provides a whole another level of analytic understanding of who are we as a congregation in terms of our socioeconomic behavioral identity and financial strength in relationship to what's true in the area that we're analyzing, where we serve in ministry. There is a video here that is available for people to use to walk them through the process. So I'm going to click on that. It turns blue. I then say next. It will identify the study. And then here is where they go to congregants default. They click on there, excuse me, and they click next. It then provides them the ability of learning that they can code their member list. Most congregations initially do not do this. And in order for us to get people to upload their members, we often just have them upload the file without it. But if they use these categories, they can identify their member file by these specific categories. Now, they are hard-coded, so you cannot edit them. And in other words, you need to decide what other might be, but there is one for the member, a regular attender, or visitor. So we do have congregations that use this effectively in that regard. You can also code the members in terms of how they became a member. So then I'm going to go to next. And here is where the upload takes place. And I am going to click on this link because this is the template that must be used in order for the upload to this to be successful. So I'm going to come here and let me just enlarge this a little bit so we can see it. In order for the system to work, they must have these fields completed. They do not need to complete the rest of the fields. This is just a client ID if there's something that you have that you want to identify individual members at their congregation, but it's not necessary. You just need their name, address, state, and zip code. And that will allow them then to upload their member file. You have a number of files uploaded already, and I will show you that. So here is where those are reside in the plotting area. And at the presbytery level, you have the ability to go in and look and work with the churches that have uploaded their members. I'm going to just plot all of them. So I'm going to say I want all. And here you generally say legend none, but I'm going to say the church. And so this will show you where all of the congregations are that have currently uploaded their members into the system. And they appear here in the information panel. You can change the color of any plots just by clicking in the little box and changing that color here on this slider. So if I zoom in, we will see the church plots as they are located. And here we'd be looking at Madison, and then the other one I think would be either Grace or, well, one of these two. So this provides you the ability of working with multiple congregations at the presbytery level. At the local level, when they log in, they would go here, and let's say we are just looking at Madison. So I'm going to plot the Madison by their none. And so here's the members, and this is what Madison would see when they log in. I'm going to change the color to red, so it's a little easier for us to see on the map. And so here are their members. Now, why is it important for congregations to upload their member file? Because they can then access a very specialized report in the demographics section. And it's only available here on the mapping platform, where you actually see the plots once they are plotted. It takes you to this view. So here I'm now going to go to my demographics. I'm going to then draw a shape, and I'm going to say, I would like to know what's true about my members in relationship. And I'm going to try to make this a little tighter than getting everyone. I want to get about, well, we'll come over here, down. And again, this can all be done at different levels. So I'm going to double click, and now it's going to tell me that out of 126 of our members, we have 117, so we have 92%. That's going to give us a very good idea of who we are in relationship to who lives in that geography. When we draw a shape, you also can know what size geography does that include, and this includes 437 square miles. Later, if we just want to look at smaller areas, we can draw those, and also we'll see that the square mileage is a lot less. When you draw a custom shape, you also then can work with that shape here in this box. And one of the tools is you can save it. So you could then redraw that exactly the same size. So all you would do is we would give it a name and click save. So I'm just going to put 92% members. So then I could redraw that at any time. So now there's the shape, there's the label, and then I can go to my demographics, and we can begin to work with this shape. And we can say that we want to now select a predefined report. There are 7 standard predefined reports. There are 3 demographic and 4 religious. But there's also a unique report that is a comparative report that will give us a whole different view of understanding who are we and who are our neighbors by using the mosaic system, which provides a social, economic, behavioral, and financial view of our congregation. So now we're going to see exactly what's true about this. I could have edited this field and said for this church as well. And now we see.
Peter, I'm sorry, Al has a question.
Yes, Al. Al?
You're muted.
There we go. Okay. I'm sorry. For some of our congregations, because people are people, I can see a hesitancy to upload the names of every single member. is it necessary to have every single member, or what if you just got the name of the head of household? Would that be enough, or do you have to have every single member?
Well, you can just do households, but what this is trying to do is show you what's true in relationship to how many individuals you have and how many households they represent. You can just use the household. We recommend individual. You need to know that the security is used through Amazon. We've had no breaches. The data is protected both in movement and at rest. And we have over 5 million records uploaded by churches across the US. So it's a very highly used system, but again, they do not need to put the names of all the individuals in there. They could just put the household and they could just put the last name if they choose.
Okay, I just know that, people are going to have questions like that. Do we have to have all the details? So at a very minimum, getting the name of the head of household would work, although ideally we'd like to have the names of the parents and all the children that are members and everybody
Well, you
else.
just get to see that, out of our, how many households we have in relationship to how many individuals are part of the congregation. But again, not essential. The household count is essential.
Okay,
And so,
thank you.
so this is saying that in the area, all 71 of the Mosaic segments are present. So it's a very diverse area. And this congregation has members of these 106. They live in 35 different Mosaic segments. So the first section, which I'm going to move through quickly, just gives an overview of what's true about the area with all by these individual categories, and then what's true about our congregation households as in the same area. And we can see there is an index on the right. 100 would be equal correlation between the member household and the community. So if it's over 100, we're overrepresented. Under 100, we're underrepresented. So it gives a quick view of where we are in relationship to these variables here on the left side. So we have more households in our congregations without children than would be present in the community. I'm going to skip through the page 2 and 3. You can look at those at your leisure if you haven't. And I want to go to the second section. Here we see exactly how do the members of this congregation distribute across these Mosaic segments that really talk about how we live our lives in regard to daily activities, and as well as what our income strength is. You can see this congregation is very unique in one way, that they are distributed across many of these categories. This is not normal for a lot of congregations. Often they will be clustered in 1 or 2 areas. So they're reaching a variety of people, which I would think at one level would be a real strength. Now, some places it's not strong, but again, the ability for them to begin to analyze and understand where is our strength and where do we want to connect in regard to areas we're not. Also, the other thing you will learn about the Mosaic system, if you haven't, is that the lower the number, the higher the income, and the higher the number, the lower the income. Whenever we have a Mosaic page, we have 4 links. The first one is to the handbook, which I'll show you in a moment. And there is one to a ministry application guide by Tom Bandy, which we'll also look at. And then there are 2 brief videos that assist the user in better understanding these for ministry planning. When we look at this first one, I want to come back and see where some of our strength is. Well, the largest is number 7, which is B09. So if we come up here, I've already opened this because it's a huge file, and we're going to open it. And people need to spend just a little time understanding what's true, because it is a huge system created by Experian. They're a credit company. They have data on over 98% of all the households in America. They take 300 variables and they build a profile that is then connected to each household in the system at the zip +4 level, which means every little cluster of 4 to a dozen households have one of these mosaic codes attached to them, given the information in the system that identifies their activity, behavior, and income strength. So I had come back and I said, we're looking at B09. So let's come over here and see if I can find quickly B09. There's A01. So we'll come down a little further to B09. 7, 8, here we go. So what's true about B09s? They have 7 households in their congregation. So now we can look at this information and get a better understanding of what's realistic about who they are. How tech savvy are they? How do they like to receive information? What are some key features? And on the next page, how do they distribute across each of these categories in relationship to the norm of the US? So if the bar is to the right, they are above the norm in the US. And if there's a number, that's times. So for this group, you're going to find that 60% of them are going to have a head of household age 36 to 50. And that's going to be the strength. You will find some others in the category, but they will be limited. One of the key elements that I like to use as well as the other here is length of residency. Length of residency is not a demographic variable. So, but this system then provides you information on what is the tendency for them to stay in one place in regard to time. And we can see that this group will tend to be in one place from 6 to 20 years, give or take. You will find other segments where they move within 5 years. So what does that mean when we look at ministry possibilities? So I'm going to come back here to this area. And remember, I said there are these 4 links. So I'm now going to click on the other link, which is the application guide. And I'm going to go there and we'll come down to B09. And this provides information on, given what is being said about who these people are in terms of marketing and understanding behavior, how might we best connect with them in regard to 9 areas of ministry? In essence, what kind of leadership would this group be more responsive to given these choices? And so there are 9 sections. There is some narrative as well as these categories, and there are discussion questions. And I'm just going to quickly zip through. You can see the different categories that are here. Again, to really engage the group in conversation of what might it mean for us if we're looking at connecting with all these different groups, what's more effective. At the end of this report, there is a glossary that will identify and explain each of those names. So I'm going to come back now to
Peter?
Yes.
Another question that perhaps may come up, and thinking about this particular congregation, um, um, the information, the demographic and financial information collected by Experian and then applied to this specific church, is that demographic and financial information that we're using to compare the church to the community around that, is that nationally, or is that from this area, say of San Antonio? Because we have cities like San Antonio, which have a unique flavor and custom to them, very different than, say, Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, but what we're saying, but what Experian has proven and the marketing people have shown, that people in each of these categories have these behaviors regardless of where they live. They may express them in different ways locally, but their overall profile of behavior, activity, age, and is verified through their algorithms in building the system. These are one of the two major marketing systems in the US. So that's all we can tell you. What people choose to do with that is up to them. But
Okay, so
it is a corporate system that is being used by the corporate world in terms of target marketing.
I understand. So the
These are not
demographic,
regional, these are behavioral and income level wise.
I totally get that. I just want to know if it was regional or, and one of the examples I'll give you is length of residency. San Antonio is less than used to be, but it's still a heavy military town where people come and go rather quickly based on their military assignments. And the average time of being in San Antonio for a resident is less than the national demographic because so many people are tied to these kind of jobs. How would that be reflected in this kind of demographic information?
Because it would be reflected in which of the segments are present, which they have military bases all over the US. And so it's reflected in terms of the segment that you would have. These would be younger segments, and you will find that those, it will show you that they're moving 1 to 5 years in most cases. The other thing that's in the system is the financial range of median income. And so if you've ever been a pastor and tried to find out what the income was of your congregation, good luck. I pastored 8 years. But what this does is it provides the leadership the ability of better understanding what kind of financial strength would we have given the address of where people live and what the Mosaic code is for them, and the median income information attached to that. And you can see the system goes from over $300,000 annually to down to 13,000. But what it's saying is that these 106 households have an annual median income of over $9 million. Most of us would never believe that or even consider that as some kind of reality. We don't think that way. I know I didn't when I was a pastor, but what we discover is that most budgets of congregations run somewhere between 2 and 4%. So this is an indicator and really can provide the ability of better understanding. For instance, there are 6, 9, 10 households in this congregation that are in median income ranges of over 200,000. So now what does that mean for the leadership in going forward? So this is the comparative insight report. And this is very different from just having people go and run demographics. For instance, I could also come here and I could, instead of running the comparative insight report, I could run an executive insight report. And I could generate that. And these are the kind of reports that we've seen over and over. from demographic services. And so now it's going to just return a regular demographic report, and of which is available again for anywhere in the presbytery at any geography. You could run zip codes, block groups. And so now we have the kind of information that we're looking at in terms of relating between our members in the area. And now this is just the area information. One of the nice things about the Executive Insight Report, I want to point out two things. One, there is a median income by race and ethnicity. And so we can see that given the different racial ethnic presence, the income levels vary. Even though the average is 58, they range from 70 down to 50. So that is an important piece. Also, this not only has the mosaic, and you'll see the exact same information, but it has a section on generations. And I think personally, this can be very helpful, because if a congregation is just reaching boomers and older, you're looking at somewhere around 15% of the population. So these are the tools that are available here to assist the congregation to better understand not only what's true about our area, but what's true about us as well. And then there is one of the religious reports in terms of program preference is also part of this particular report. I would suggest that in terms of your vital congregations, that you take a look at the different reports that are available here and deciding which ones are most effective for you in working with congregations in that regard. The Quick Insight has a worksheet on the last page that could be very helpful in working with a congregation. It is also found here in the help section. We strongly suggest that people go to the help section, and you can see the different reference guides, different reports that are available that would help them understand, as well as the videos that can assist them in their usage, and along with how to contact the support staff for Mission Insight at ACS Technologies. So all of this is in the help section for their usage. Now, I want to come back and just show some other features. I'm going to clear everything I had here and just use the area, the full area. I'm going to now go to layers. Here is where you can activate different layers and look at them. This are the zip codes. These are the boundaries. So we turn them on, and then again, there are different attributes to add. We can add the label, and now we can see there's 87022. Or we can then also activate that with a pointer. The pointer allows us then to click inside a geography, activate it, and then we could go to the reports panel and run a report for that geography. I think using the zip codes is very important, because often people will want a zip code report. But if we were working with a group that had a church here, down in this area, or say here, it's right in the center. Do you want the whole zip code? Where you have churches in other areas that are in the corner of a zip code, you can see whether that geography is helpful in what you are trying to accomplish. So here's one. Here's a good example. One on the edge. Well, if you get this zip code, is that the actual information you would like. So that provides you the ability with your layers of turning things on or off. If you want to go down to census tracts, again, these are pure geographies that you can run demographic reports for. And even in highly dense areas, you can turn on the block groups, and we could come and actually look at a block group data. Again, this is the way the data is configured. You also have elementary, medium, middle, and school district boundaries available. Here is where you can create any kind of a shape. So let me get rid of that. Let me turn off my layers. So I'm going to uncheck that. I'm going to go to my shapes. And one of the key things that you can do with your shapes is draw custom geographies. For instance, one of the things that I like to do, here's a church. I like to use walk time. I want to highlight that because when you're working with vital congregations, I would love to ask them a question and say, I'm going to select a point here. I'm going to on our church location, and now I'm going to ask the question: how many children live within and seniors live within a 10-minute walk of the building? Very few people have a clue. And you could do 10, 15, 20, 25. I'm just going to do 20 now because of time. And I'm going to say, I want to draw it. So there's a 10-minute walk. Now I go to my demographics. These are all the tools here at the bottom. And instead of running a full report predefined, I'm going to go and build a report because we're in a meeting. And so we just asked the question about children in the area. And so I'm going to now select age of life. I'm going to generate that. And so very quickly, it is going to create that report and bring it back to me. I'm going to increase this so you can read it. And do you think that they are aware that in this congregation, they have 156 0 to 4-year-olds and 850 school-age kids? See, this has changed significantly. And in terms of retired people, over 600. So all that ministry, there are 4,000 plus people live within 10 minutes of that building. So I don't know where their membership is, but we could now run a mosaic. You could run any of the reports and analyze that in another way, or you could draw a custom shape. So these are some of the tools available. Not only do you have this kind of tool, but I'm going to come back and draw a custom geography. And I want to do one additional thing here quickly. So I'm going to go to my shapes tab. I'm going to draw a custom area. And we want to analyze what's true. Oh, here we go. Trying to go a little too fast. I just want to analyze what's going on here. And I'm left clicking, dragging my mouse. And I'm going to follow the interstate here. I'm going to come down. So I just want to basically do that area. And now I'm going to go to my demographics, and I'm going to use another tool called Opportunity Scan. And here we want to see where the children, 0 to 4-year-olds, because we have a preschool. And I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to say, I want to come back here and I want to look at people. I want to look at population by, let's see, I didn't want school age, excuse me. Oh, here it is, preschool, that's what I wanted. So I'm not gonna do preschool. I'm gonna come over here. Need to move these things so I can get that done. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a problem with my screen. Well, I'm wanting to generate. I have not had this problem, my apologies. Oh, there we go. So looking for 4-year-olds, that's what we wanted. And we're going to scan. So now it's going to go in and it's going to both scan that geography. And it's going to return a table of data. And these are the 4-year-olds in the area. And if I check this box and look at these top 3 over 40, it will put a marker on the map. And we can then see where that is taking place visually across the map. You can also use, and then you can download that. I have churches that have used this. They then locate their members and have had members put door hangers on areas within a specific geography. The other thing that you can also do is just run a thematic map, where we could go to the census layer and we could create a thematic map of 4-year-olds throughout the entire area. So you can use thematic map or opportunity scan. Finally, I do need to go to one additional capability.
Peter, can any of these, like once you identify the opportunity for preschool within that area that you set, can you give us any demographic information about those families within that preset who have 4-year-olds? For instance, how many of them are primarily Spanish speaking?
You cannot.
Okay.
No, that is not available as part of the system at this point.
Okay.
The other thing that you have available to you is, let me go in and plot a member, and let's go back to, we'll just plot Grace here. Legend by none. So here is a congregation that has plotted their members, and I'm going to make them blue so you can see them a little better. Now I'm going to go to my plotting. And here is a new feature called Neighbor Center. You're going to need to play with this a little bit, but I want to show you what it is, because this now allows you to look at the entire population in a given area. So as I zoom in, you are now looking at all of the households in a given geography. Here are our member households. If I click on it, it will now provide you with the name and address and this information for that individual in that area. So you can begin to see patterns of where people live by different groups. So if I have a person here and it's L42, and I now want to look at where are L42 households, I can go to my Mosaic code and I can go to L42, click on that, come back down and replot. And now it's going to show me where L42s live in the entire area. I could then go to my address list over on the welcome screen, and I could access and see if I want to purchase those names for marketing. You cannot use them for marketing, but they're here to give the user a visual experience of the presence of different variables. So if you want to look at households with children, you can do that. You could look at racial ethnic surnames. So these are the different capabilities that are in here. Again, it's going to take a little time to go look, but I definitely want you to be aware this is a new feature that has just come online as part of your study at no additional cost. It's called Neighbor Center, and you find it in plotting. And when you start, you can plot all of the households, and then you can begin to plot different individual characteristics like these. So that is a very quick overview at about 30,000 feet. I want to pause now and see if you have any questions, but I believe at this point, this can assist people to get started with the system.
Peter, is there something somewhere that tells us what information is included in which report? So before we go run it, we know
No,
which report we need? No, we just have to kind of poke around.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not a summary that by report that would have that at this point.
Okay.
Good question.
Peter, if there's a congregation that doesn't want to give the addresses for the congregation, but says, we see value in those area reports, can they access the reports for the area
Sure.
without having the member data on file?
Well, of course. I mean, that's the old system. Is just getting demographics. The big dilemma, and this is what you used to pay consultants to do, is the big dilemma is not understanding who we really are, who we're really connecting with. It's all guesswork. And I think a congregation really hampers themselves in terms of what is now available to them that's secure. I mean, there's churches that don't do it, but then how effective are they with the area? And it adds a whole new dimension. That's why we start with it now, because it's going from the old report generation mentality to an interactive ministry phase that can be utilized ongoing. That's the other big difference, folks, is in the past, you got a demographic report and then you didn't do anything for 3 years, right? Things weren't going to change. Well, I want you to know that the updates that we received from Synergos, they update their database 4 times a year. ACS is going to get back to the 2 times a year. And there was a big difference in local projections given COVID and what they were seeing in terms of a reduction of population because of COVID in areas of deaths, that they readjusted 3 months later. So you're just talking about a very different world of what's available to you than what was true 10 years ago in regard to being current and understanding an area. The other thing, if you go look at, you know, the area around the church, you don't know how many of your members actually live within that 20-minute walk. You can guess, but unless you plot them, how do you know? And you can't plot sub zip codes data. So if you've got a neighborhood within a zip code and you've got 5 members, 10 members, and you'd like to analyze that, how are you going to know that they actually live there without plotting? All you know is you have 50 members in zip code, whatever, right? But you don't know where they are in the zip. And the zip might be 200 square miles or 50 square miles. So you need the educating congregations of the value of better understanding their community. And that's why I love to run the little walk time. I love to go to a meeting and I will make everybody in the room give me a number. How many children live within 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 15, whatever, just trying to have some fun. And you'll have people say 50, 10, 500 in the same room, same church. And you run it and you find there are 280. They didn't have a clue.
I realize that. I know the issue that we ran into before. Security is one thing that people have concerns about. And when you mention Experian, they were hacked and millions of people had their data exposed. So those are
Well,
things.
you're not giving it to Experian. You're not giving it to Experian. We're just using the Experian system. It's got, the data doesn't go there. It is on our servers at ACS Technologies, secured through Amazon Security and other securities.
There will be questions about that. But the other thing is security within the congregation.
Yes.
What we ran into before is people who wanted to use it, they said, oh, it would be nice to know what my neighbor's income is. So they start trying to
Well, here's the other, Carol, one quick, here's the other thing. Did you see when I ran Neighbor Center? That's a public database. That has your residents in there, mine.
I'm aware of that, and people are too. The only thing I'll say is we need to set up security within the congregation as to who has access.
Yeah, that's the thing, Carol, is not the whole congregation's not going to have access to this. It'll be the pastor or the chair of the committee or whoever's accessing it, but it's not going to be open where everyone can run a report.
Yeah, only a church administrator. I see what you're asking, Carol.
I know what
Melody has to give the rights to an individual or individuals to access the member file.
Well, it's just a temptation for people who have small businesses to say, I could never afford to get all this marketing info on my own. And here at the church has it. So those are some of the issues that we ran into before.
People will do that. We understand that they can download that. I mean, they can cheat. They say they won't when they register, but people do. And we've decided at this point that the percentage of that is such that the companies we've never done anything to prosecute anybody.
Yeah, well, the problem is within the congregation.
Well, but they can't get that. Carol, they can't get to that data. That data is not on the website for them to access.
They have to, I have to send them the login. They self-register, then I get the email and I can approve them. And if I don't recognize the name, I ask, who are you? What congregation are you with? Let me clear this with the pastor before I grant you permission. And I don't just approve every name that comes across my screen. Like I want to make sure I'm not gonna get in trouble for this,
Okay,
so.
we just need to put a
Yeah.
system in place internally for
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and
Peter,
then,
changing the topic, since this is an ACS product, we have a number of our congregations who use ACS database and Realm and these sorts of things. Is there a way for them to interface with this so they don't have to manually upload everyone?
they're working on that, Al, very good point. Yes, they are working on that integration, which will happen. I don't have a timetable for you, but if you want to check, Melody can put you in touch with Drake Huffman, who is your new contact there at ACS Technologies. And Melody, if you don't have his, he was copied on the email I sent you.
Okay,
But Drake can give you that. But yes, they've been talking about that since the acquisition, actually.
Great, thank you. I just
Yeah.
know some of our larger congregations,
Yep.
they're gonna be
guess.
hesitant to spend the hours putting their congregation members in, but if they could just interface and pull over
Yeah.
their already existing ACS database, they'd be much more likely.
Yeah, well, right now,
Yeah.
though, I mean, we have Saddleback as a member. They have 45,000 records. So all they do is put the header on their file, and they've been able to do that easily. So we have a number of mega churches, I mean, dozens and dozens that have uploaded their member file. The largest Methodist church in Kansas City is an active member and user
So-
of the system.
So they uploaded their member file. All right, that's what I'm asking about. So did they export from ACS into a Excel spreadsheet or a CVS and then
Yes.
export that into this?
Yes, the regular Excel, and then they just upload it into the system, which is secured.
Okay, so
That would
are
make
there
it easier.
instructions somewhere that I could give to a church on exactly how to do that?
Yes. Let me just show you again. It's on the, let me just run back here quickly. Always better to look at it than try to explain it. So here in People Plot, upload, here is a video. And here is the process.
Okay. And right there where it says type name, you would type in the data file name?
Hold on, that's not, here we go. They want to use congregants default, and
Okay.
then they go to next. It will say who the person is. They can then use that or not, but here is the template. And here's where they upload the file.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's right here. So they would then choose the file. It will then send them a report of what is being uploaded. They have to sign off on that, and then the upload will take place. And then, depending on the size of the upload, generally is available in 30 minutes to an hour as well.
Okay.
Did that help?
Yes,
That
thank you.
would, yeah, that would make it tremendously easier.
Oh, it is. It's all automated. I mean, with 5 million records, we have clients that have every church member file uploaded in the system. Like Seventh-day Adventists, they control all that from a central location. And they have, same with Roman Catholic. We have some Catholic dioceses that have over 250,000 records uploaded. So you're talking about significant changes in what's available now and how it's handled compared to in the past. Anything else, folks?
Well, I just wanted to say that I forget exactly what we call it, friends and neighbor plot, you know, where it showed the member households and who was around them, etc. Many moons ago at a previous church in North Carolina, we were pilot on a project. I don't remember if it was ACS or not, on a similar sort of thing where we plotted our congregation households in various neighborhoods, etc. And we used that for two things. One was to create neighborhood groups, for Lenten study groups, who lives in this neighborhood, so that we can group congregation members. But also then when we did outreach projects, hanging door hangers or things like that, to make sure we had all the neighborhoods covered, so you would just do your neighborhood. And when we had visitors to the church, instead of the pastor making all the visits, we would say, okay, this new visitor lives at this address. Who's nearby? Oh, look, their next door neighbor is a member of the church.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of good that comes into that. The problem is you've got to remember at least once a year to upload all the changes in your congregation with their addresses, because people come and go.
Yes, and the other thing, when you upload, you can go in and create neighborhood clusters and save them, just like I saved that one. So let's say that church, I remember the Madison one, there were probably 4 different neighborhoods where they had like 10, 15 members. And you can go in and draw a custom shape around the area that you want. And then you can run the comparative report, you can run the demographics, you can run the religious, and you can also download an Excel spreadsheet, the church administrator can, of who those members are in that neighborhood. Because I have a church in my backyard here that has done just that. They identified 0 to 4-year-olds, and then they identified their members in the neighborhood, and they asked their members to go put door hangers on the doors because it was their neighbors, and they were willing to do that. They weren't willing to go somewhere else and do it, but they would do it in their own neighborhood. So yes, these are the kind of things that are emerging of utilizing this information more thoroughly. Also, if you understand who your members are by Mosaic, that can be used in media campaigns like Facebook, where you can identify those kind of households. So the future is really picking up in terms of capability of what a system's value is.
The only problem about focusing on those 4-year-olds, they're really not good givers.
That's true too.
Yeah.
And their parents don't always give from preschools, from what I understand. I never had one. Anyway, you could focus on people with money. you can run those analytics by income. You can run them by anything.
Yeah. The only thing that I think there's so much good information here, and I appreciate all the work you're doing with this. My only concern would be if there was some way to get a more focused regional, and not necessarily by zip code, but the demographics, particularly we deal with the language barrier in Texas and the number of Spanish only households. And if you've got a congregation that's only English speaking, some way to identify within this given range, how many are primarily English, only English, things like that. And I'm sure that, there are other regions that have unique characteristics. So it would be, if everybody asks you feedback wise, it would be nice if somehow there was to account for regional variations to the norm. Well, yeah, the religious survey is regionalized in terms of that reporting back, given where the surveys are taken. The demographics are of course are what they are, and they've added the thing about getting more data in terms of by race and ethnicity or by different groups like LGBTQ. I mean, there are people who want that kind of data better. It's who's willing to pay to have it collected. Sure. and make it available, and so that's where things don't happen as quickly as some people would like or would want from national databases. So there are those limitations for sure. Now, what you can do on the Neighbor Center, Al, is you can go in and run Spanish surnames. Mhm.
And you can look at the population by Spanish surnames or other surnames. You can, so there are some things to try to give you a better understanding, but those others that you mentioned earlier are not things that you can actually go in and get
Right,
directly.
Right. No, I'm just saying, if you're ever in a conversation, anybody asks, that would be
Yes,
a
well,
good
you
improvement.
know, there is language spoken at home.
Yeah.
Is there,
Yeah.
but again, it doesn't identify which households.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your feedback. It's evident you've used system like this before, and I know we always would like something a little better for sure. But keep on ACST. They're the developers now, and I know they want to do a good job because they do have a lot of realm clients and a lot of individual churches use them across the country.
Mhm. Well,
All
thank
right.
you, Peter. And I just want to check, Melody, do we have contact information for Drake since he's going to be our point person on this?
Peter said he was in the email that he sent me, so I'll check and make sure I have the email.
I'll also send you his full contact. Melanie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
you have his title and everything.
So Mark
Okay.
is no longer who I speak with, right?
Well,
Mark's the one that's gone.
Mark is, there've been some different shifts. For
Gotcha.
now, if you contact Drake, he can manage
Gotcha.
it going forward.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, who knows? There's just a lot of change going on in the company at the moment, and it's
I
not my
understand.
world anymore. I'm a former owner.
Well, if you could just get us Drake's basic contact, his account number, routing number, and mother's maiden name, we're fine. We're good. We're good.
Got it. It's in the database, Al. Okay, thank you
All right.
all.